from the crypt.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 41 of Dads from the Crypt, the Tales from the Crypt podcast. My name is Jason. I'm joined by Jody.
Hello.
And Mondo.
Hello.
And tonight we have a very special guest. His name is Zoran. He can be found on the Dead Meat and Low Carb Comedy YouTube channels. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
How are you?
I can't say hello like a normal person. I'd say like a cartoon character.
Sound like you're promoting
wonderful.
Bixby.
I'm always ready to say Bixby. I can't believe that bit went for so long.
I love it.
People loved it.
It's great.
Yes, we'll see if I can fit him into non-Tremors kill count somehow. But I think
As we were saying, Tremors is one of my favorite franchises, and you killed it. I'm really happy. And
yes.
have you met? Oh my God, Gross.
Michael Gross. No, I will say we were very close to having him cameo in the kill count. We were in touch with his people and everything, but then he decided to pass. Probably because he's like, I don't want to go to some guy's basement that I don't know. And so I just put Ben in the costume, Dead Meat assistant Ben. But yes, I did all the Tremors kill counts and just wrapped those up. And it was a long time. It was 2.5 months of those things going. And I'd been starting to write them prior to that and everything. But it was a blast, and I'm glad everyone was so nice to me. And by everyone, I mean 90% of the people were very nice to me. Because
there's always the trolls. No, I have a great Michael Gross story for you.
Please.
For Halloween one year, I went to go see The Exorcist at one of the arc lights, and right before just as the movie was starting, the projector broke. So they had to turn the lights back on. They gave out some free popcorn coupons and everything, and we're all just milling around. I'm not really looking at anyone in the audience, but then someone turns around to some old guy and says, "Hey, are you Michael Gross?" He's like, "Oh, yes, I am." And we started just asking him family ties and Tremors questions to pass the time.
That's great.
That's
amazing.
I've always wondered how weird that is for celebrities. Just don't walk up, "Hey, are you? Hey, are you?" Like, God damn it. Yes, I am.
I'm excited for it to happen because people have come up to me and go, "Are you that?" I'm like, "No, I'm not that person." But I swear, I saw you in a theater production. I did not do that. Sorry.
Don't you love when they argue with you? Like, seriously, I'm not who you think I am. I think I'd remember being in a theater production.
Yeah.
Like, aren't you James from that one channel?
Am I James? I'm not James. I can't grow facial hair, so I will never be James.
There you go.
I draw that all on.
So you and James did a very extensive Q&A. So, if anybody wants to know about, how the Tremor stuff went down, go check out that on your the Dead Meat YouTube channel. But I've always wondered, how did you get on the Dead Meat team?
Well, I have a music video that a lot of horror folks have seen called Social Media Masochist, which is Jason and Carrie and a bunch of slashers in a John Hughes style teen movie. That I think I just checked today has 80 million views. Wow. So yeah, so I did that and a part 2. And because of that, here's the James origin story. I was watching a video that John Massari posts, the composer of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. He was doing a all full orchestra version of the soundtrack. And I commented on one of his videos and he went, "Oh, thank you. Here, follow me on this for more information because fun things are happening." And then he went and he looked at my YouTube channel, and then I got all these notifications that John Massari commented on this video and this one and this one. And he became a big fan of my work. And so he invited me to the live concert he did in 2018, I believe, that he did a full orchestra to the movie. It was an amazing thing. I got to be the disembodied voice that tells everyone to, hear the exits and, sit down and all of that. And then James, sorry.
Was that at the Ace?
That was at the Montalban.
Okay.
Yeah. And he said, "Oh, this guy James is here." And he was out just talking to people and everything. And then I'm wearing a full top hat and coattails. And he's like, "Well, I got to talk to whoever this guy is." So we chatted and promoted the thing on there. And I'd actually just emailed him after that about working editing with him. Cause I'm like, "Hey, I'm a freelance editor. If you need help with any of the kill counts, I like your work. Let me know." Nothing. And then he did a live stream And I popped in the live stream and he was editing on the live stream. And he said like, oh, this is the part I hate the most, doing all the coverage on the movies. And then I just went, I could do that for you, James. And then he noticed that in the chat. And from there, he gave me the Ice Cream Man with Clint Howard. That was the first one that I ever did for him. And from there, I gave him the coverage. He's like, oh, you can do this. Okay, yeah. Okay, here's more. Do more things. And so I've been with the team since 2018. And then this last year, I became full-time after doing the They Talk series that I got to do for Dead Meat as well, where I put voices to previously silent slasher killers like Jason and things and make them talk.
Yeah, the Happy Death Day one was great.
Oh, yes, that one.
Really
those take like 100 hours of work to get one of those things out.
Wow.
And that's where it's been hesitant to get season 2, but James wants me to start doing a season 2. So I will say that I will be starting work on that, whatever that means. There's no release date or anything yet. I'm just going to start work on season 2. But yeah, that's how I got on the team. Just random messages. And then later on, after I've been working for him for a year, I think he sent me this email going, hey, look at this young guy who wants to be part of my editing team. I'm like, yeah, this email I sent you, James, that you ignored for months.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's lovely. I love the team. Got a lot of really good people on there.
Cool. Yeah, really excited to see the new studio and the return of James in June. Really excited.
Oh, that studio is so nice. So nice. I'm really excited for it too.
Cool. All right. Before we get going with our review, I have a couple announcements. We are promoting or pushing for everyone to vote for your favorite dad hosted podcast in Podcast Magazine. If you know of any podcast hosted by a couple of dads,
3 of them
maybe, we'd appreciate it if you would give us a vote. Also on May 22nd at noon West Coast time, we're going to have our very first live Q&A with actor all around badass William Sadler.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So again, we'll be streaming it through our YouTube channel. But if you can't make it, or if you just want to send ahead, you can go ahead and email us questions at dadsforthecrypt@gmail.com. You can tweet them at us. You can Instagram message, however you want to. You can send them by pigeon. Send us questions. Anything you ever want to ask William Sadler, we'll check it out. So again, that's May 22nd at noon West Coast time.
Jason, you sound super excited about that. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We've already.
I know you are. And actually, I know you are. I know you are. I know you are.
I mean, I can't wait. I love Demon Knight so much that yes. I definitely want to cover it on a kill count if I get the opportunity. Nothing's set in there. But then I'm like, okay, but then I also have to cover Bordello of Blood and Ritual. And I don't really want to watch Ritual again.
Ritual, we can just scrub.
I would love to, but you got to complete the franchise when you pick one of these movies to do the kill count for.
Look on the cover. It doesn't actually say Tales of the Crypt Ritual.
It does now. Didn't they change it? They put all this stuff back in.
Okay. Maybe it depends on the version, but I thought it wasn't.
So I really don't want to go back to Ritual.
Yeah, Jason, I think we do. I think we do have to do that though, even if it's us trashing it.
Someday, I mean, I feel like someday we do, but it's your for a dead meat kill count, you guys can I give you permission.
It's the other reason that I want to do Creep Show, but then there's the third one.
Oh no.
Which isn't even a movie.
Oh god.
Thing.
The second one was a huge drop off, but it's still fun. It has some fun parts.
It has the raft, and I will cover the hell. The raft is the best. I love the raft.
The raft is awesome. Yeah. But the third is yeah.
I couldn't even watch. I couldn't even. Oh.
There's so many series that drop off so hard on the third movie, like Prom Night, and then you got Mary Lou is great. And then by the third one, it's getting bad. There's a fourth Prom Night. It's terrible. Then you got remakes. Like there's all of these.
Some of those fall to the problem of they get the rights get bought out by a company that just wants to turn out garbage, throw it on a DVD cover, make some money. I think that was Creepshow 3. I think the rights were bought by somebody who just wanted to throw out some garbage to make some money.
It's barely a creep show. It's just
it's shot on digital video, and it's just it looks so bad. It looks so bad.
I still bought it when it came out. I still bought the DVD of that for sure.
Yeah.
It was a waste of money.
And there's the problem. There's the problem right there. You funding these DVD box sequels.
No, you're part of the problem.
Hey man, y'all's at Best Buy, like Creepshow 3. I can't not buy it for $7.99. And then I watched it. I was like, oh, I should have. Can I return this?
I would have. I actually would have gone like, no, take this away from me. Well, we can't give you. I don't care. Just take it away from me. I don't want my money. I don't want it anywhere near me.
Just go turn it to a Blockbuster. It's not even.
Drop it in the thing.
Flip that back in.
Just give it back to the library.
You didn't borrow this? Just yes, I did.
All right. So tonight we will be discussing None But the Lonely Heart, which premiered on June 27th, 1994, to kick off the 4th season of Tales from the Crypt. Jody, you ready for a plot synopsis?
I am. I think the plot synopsis for this one is longer than the last one, even though the last one was the longest episode of Tales from the Crypt that ever happened. So I don't know why. There's just a lot happening in this episode. Tightly packed 30 minutes. All right, we open on the Crypt Keeper at a fancy dinner with corpses as the guest and a skeleton playing violin. Just beautiful. I love that those Crypt Keeper openings are like 1 minute long, and they put work into them. Like they put effort in with the costumes and the Crypt Keeper in a tuxedo. I say this every time he's in a costume, but it's just the best.
And he was
A puppet in a costume. It's all I want.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Oh, and he was kind of playing the Tales from the Crypt theme too on the violin.
like that.
Just
I loved it.
Anytime a puppet's in like a tuxedo, you got me.
yeah.
So they use the Walmart style of so Walmart has a theory that if you walk in and some nice old person says hi to you, you can have the shittiest experience. But when you walk out, if someone nice is by to you, that you'll forget everything that happened in between. And granted, I didn't hate this episode, but I think Tales from the Crypt does understand that. Like good intro, good outro, and in between, sometimes you can get away with some garbage.
I mean, I will say the Crypt Keeper is one of the reasons I love puns and put puns into all of my work because of him. And I judged a few of his puns. The champagne one, I was like, oh, come on. Because then I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, but can I do better? And I'm like, oh yeah, we could have a glass of Bubbleed. Bubbleed would work. Because I believe the champagne was a poor decision.
That was a stretch.
There it is.
I got you.
There's another one for you.
I got you.
Yes, I try and outpun the pun master that is the Crypt Keeper when I watch his stuff, but I love that. I love that thing. Sorry,
he's reaching the dad level puns.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Sorry, Jody. We'll cork this conversation and let you keep going.
We hadn't even got to the actual episode yet. We're just in the intro.
I'm not supposed to talk. I won't talk.
All right, so we start with the camera panning over some fancy dinnerware and an older woman sitting at the table fixing her lipstick. It's a big table, big house, obviously a lot of money involved. And this younger man walks in. His name is Howard, and he asks her if she's ready for dinner. And he brings out a plate of some kind of colorful mush. I don't know what he made her for dinner. It's not appetizing. It's just mush in various shades.
Then she says it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. I mean, that's colorful, I guess.
Looks like cranberry sauce and vomit. Really what he's serving her.
I feel like though everyone's had that date or been with their significant other and they make food that doesn't look that appetizing, but you're gonna be like, it's cool because it was made with love.
That was exactly
exactly
what I said.
I've got a story for that, but I'll save it because I'm never going to get through this episode. So he gives her this food and a fancy bottle of wine, and he's kind of flirting with her and calling her pet names. And then he just kind of casually drops like, "Oh, by the way, I need you to sign these papers so I can get some money." And she said, "Sure," and signs the papers. And he starts reciting poetry for her as she drinks her wine, and she starts spasming and dies while he sits there watching. So obviously he poisoned her. He pours out his wine, calls for an ambulance, pretends to be hysterical, and says she has a heart attack. So at the funeral, the pastor's giving the eulogy. A couple comes up to Howard and says that he made her last month's very special. And then we meet Morty, his business partner, who comes to Howard when he's alone and said Howard did a good job fooling everybody. Howard has done this several times before. He marries an older woman and then kills them for their money. And they're having some financial problems. The IRS is investigating them for tax fraud. And so Morty says we should just take the money and run. But Howard wants more money. He said, I can't live on just $2 million. I want enough money that I can live for the rest of my life. And so give me 10 days. I'm going to hit up one more old lady and get enough money to get out of here. And he throws his little like mourning armband on the ground, and the gravedigger picks it up and puts it in his pocket. Then we see Howard fast forwarding through videos from a dating service, trying to find one of these older women with money. And for all the kids out there, before Tinder existed or anything like that, people would literally go to a place and watch videos that you made to intro yourself to prospective dates. And you'd get these videos and watch them. And if you were interested in somebody, you contact the video dating service and say, hey, I want to meet number whatever. And they'd set up a date. So
Cody, you know a lot about video dating.
Yeah,
I do not. I know about it from late night commercials because there was a lot of that back in the day.
No, I remember them on Mad TV, the Lower Expectations.
Oh,
Yes,
that was
Exactly what I remember. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, can we say that
Expectations.
the first woman liked pro wrestling and bowling?
Yes.
Yes.
I bet Mondo was like, oh, give me that number.
Wait a second.
Dude, I was waiting for it to pop on the screen. I was like, I'm gonna shoot my shot. She's probably dead, but my wife will understand. Some rich old broad. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. But as he's going through, he finds a woman named Effie who mentions her former husband, and he's like cross-referencing it at this big book of, I don't know, big book of rich people, I guess.
Or obituaries, or what was that book?
I don't
Yeah, I
know.
was
It's a
wondering
big,
that.
thick book, and he's like, oh, okay, so she's rich because she mentions her husband Theodore. Sure. But he takes the video to the company, gets her contact, and goes to meet her. Her butler, Stanhope, tries to run him off, but Effie tells him that, I'm not really interested. I'm looking for someone closer to my age. And he gives a big speech about how he's not after her money, and he can't fulfill the needs of younger women. And so he is after an older woman, implying that he is impotent. And so this isn't about sex. It's not about money. I just want to get to know you. And it works. It intrigues her. She sends the butler away. And while they're talking, she compares him to her former husband, who was also impotent, but she said, you have more passion. And very quickly starts developing feelings for him, invites him for dinner, and then throws him down on the table with the jigsaw puzzle on it. So Effie's making moves. She knows what she wants. The next morning, she's in a great mood. She brings him breakfast in bed, and also a note that was delivered to the house. And it's addressed to Howard, and he opens it up, and it says, another one? Stop before it's too late. Kind of hides the note quickly, says it's business, and gets out of there real quick. He's trying to figure out who's sending these notes, so he goes to Morty. And Morty is in the office shredding papers, getting ready to run away. He accuses Morty of trying to take all the money and leave him holding the bag, so he sticks Morty's tie in the shredder and then leaves him to die.
The old RK Maroon treatment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen in movies a lot. I don't know that shredders were that like impossible to get out of, but in movies they were like a death grip.
Like, and no one can think I should just take the tie off.
I should take my tie off. Nope.
Or press the stop button on the shredder.
Yes.
And how tight is your Windsor? Like your knot is just. I'm like, you could really work that out. But then Gremlins 2 also had the tie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
in there too.
The 90s were a dangerous time to wear a tie and shred paper. Like, take the tie off.
We should
You're gonna
do
die.
like a Mythbusters horror edition.
Yeah.
We
So,
test out different.
does that mean we're gonna have Jason wear a tie and we're gonna throw it into a paper shredder and see what happens?
See what happens.
Yeah.
We can't help him if something bad happens.
He signs the release. We're good. We're good.
Totally. I'll do anything for my art.
I was also we talked about quicksand before. How as children we were led to believe quicksand be a problem. I was also as a kid, I also believed that getting loose clothing stuck in a machinery would also be a big problem in my
The
life.
elevator,
Mhm.
Or
Escalator.
Yeah.
Escalator.
Escalators are murder.
Sucked into an escalator.
A killer
That's
escalator
Final
movie.
Destination 4 for you.
All right.
Yep.
The worst Final Destination. All right.
The
Back to
Final
it.
Destination until Final Destination 5.
Next, we see that Howard and Effie have already gotten married at City Hall. I think this is what, like 2 days into this
Yeah.
relationship. Effie doesn't have a lot of time left. All right.
He's
She
got
is
10
moving.
days. He's
Yeah.
got 10 days. He's got to
That's
get this
ambitious.
going.
So she tells Howard she changed all the titles on her accounts at the bank somehow. Quick, we are moving.
Without his signature, that's what's worrying
Without
about.
his signature, yeah. She just went in and was like, put his name on it.
The first woman, she signs everything over without like a what's it call it? The guy who witnesses everything.
A notary.
Notary. Yeah. You think you need notary to do all
that's what
this?
this movie needed. It just needed a like complicit notary sitting in the background going.
I don't know, but if any of you guys get rich and want to add my name on your bank account, I don't need to be there to sign for that. Just forge my signature. I'm not going to challenge it.
So anyway, she says that she's going to go get the jacuzzi ready. And when she runs off, Stanhope comes in with another letter for Howard. And this one says, another one, what you're doing to these women is criminal. So obviously it wasn't Morty sending the messages. He's got to figure out who. So he goes back to the dating service where there's a man named Baxter who's kind of in charge of the service. And he confronts him and says, like, you know, you're taking a personal interest in things, thinks he knows what's going on. And then grabs him by his tie and just freaking throws his head into a TV, like busts right through the glass of the TV, and he dies. And he calls Effie and says, give Stanhope the night off so that I can make you dinner. Just you and me and a nice bottle of wine. We are moving at a very fast pace, hoping that nobody notices.
Doesn't it take time to actually get divorce paperwork like through or that? Like when someone dies, can you marry someone like that day of the funeral?
Yes.
It's just like, well, she's dead. On to the next one.
I'd assume if your whole thing is marrying people and then killing them, you want just a little bit of time in there for plausible deniability.
Exactly.
Like, I met her. We're married 2 days later. She's dead that night. I guess that's fine. Give me all
I
your money.
don't know why.
It just keeps happening.
I'm not a detective, but if my grandmother somehow married a man, turned up dead after she signed away all of her things to him, and then he's getting married a week later, I'd have some suspicions and maybe some questions. Like I'd want to have a conversation with this guy because he's raising some red flags.
Yeah. Well, Stanhope sees the red flags and he confronts Howard instead of leaving that night and tells him he knows about all the other women that have been that were his previous wives. He said, I'm not going to call the police if you will just get the marriage annulled and get out of here and never come back. And he's kind of shaky and he pulls out a gun on him. And Howard says, okay, shoot me. And Stanhope just kind of stands there shaking with the gun. And eventually Howard grabs him by the neck and just snaps his neck on the couch. Howard probably has the highest body count. We're talking kill count of any episode of Tales from the Crypt so far. He is just murdering everybody he comes around.
I really hate that too, because you can't snap someone's neck with just one hand. It's
no, he takes his other hand. Like
he
there's like a weird crunching noise when he's choking him. That's like his maybe he was just eating Captain Crunch and getting just like working it through his system. But then at the very like last second, he does like put his hand over his face and just like whip his head.
He did the twist.
He does do
the twist
because I was like, is he just gonna crush his throat? I guess.
Yeah.
But he doesn't.
I mean, I'm gonna say I've choked a lot of people and I haven't broken anybody's neck yet. So
Wando does do jujitsu, if that helps any. Just to clarify here.
Hey, if you don't want to be choked, don't be a white belt.
Okay.
So anyway, moving on from that. Howard offers Effie the red wine. And she said she doesn't like red wine, but she drinks a little bit anyway. And she says, you're trying to get me drunk. And so she guzzles down the glass. I got to say, at this point, I'm starting to feel bad for Effie. Effie seems like a pretty cool lady.
Yeah.
I like Effie a lot. But of course, when she drinks the wine, she starts seizing, falls on the floor dead. And he starts with his 911. Oh, my wife had a heart attack, I guess 2 days after I married her, or the day after I married her. While she's talking, though, he gets up and she grabs him and he throws her down the stairs and changes his story to the 911 operator and says she just fell down the stairs. Again, people need to just pay a little more attention. If you're the 911 operator and the man is like grunting and you hear a bunch of crashing sounds while you're talking to him, at least ask questions.
I love that because again, they didn't have the mute button back then. He doesn't even bother to cover the mouthpiece up. It's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna kill her while I'm on the phone with the phone, 911,
grunting and yelling the whole time. So anyway, after her funeral, Howard is booking a plane to get out of the country. He's got all the money he needs, and when he opens the door to leave, there's another envelope with his name on it attached to the door. And we don't actually see what it says, but it's implied that it says to meet at Effie's crypt. And since he wants to tie up any loose ends and make sure no one's going to come after him, he goes. A man shining a flashlight in his eyes, and it's the grave digger from earlier. And he said, I've never seen anything like this, what you're doing to these women. He says they've been calling for Howard, and they used him to bring Howard there. And before he can even ask, who is this they that they're talking about, Howard kills him with a shovel. Howard he doesn't ask questions. He just kills people. And he goes to throw the gravedigger's body in Effie's casket. But when he opens it, the casket is empty. He looks up and he sees zombie Effie standing there, who said, I'm so glad you came. But she's not alone. All of his dead wives are there, Matilda, Elizabeth, and Claire. And they say they can't live or die without him. And he tries to run, but the women just come like from all over, including the first one who died, who's in a wedding dress. Again, he doesn't waste time. She's still in a wedding dress in the grave, I guess. They just buried her in
that
the
was
wedding
weird
dress.
to me. I was like, did she get married and killed on the same day?
And they buried her in the wedding dress.
But she looked great. Worms coming
Yeah.
out, eyeball popping out.
It was some of the best special effects work I've seen in this entire show. She has an eyeball just dripping out of her head, worms coming out of her mouth. It's so cool.
Mhm.
And they swarm him as he screams and eat him alive. And that's the end of Howard.
Howard's End. That's what you
Yeah.
should say. Yes.
Okay.
Are you not going to tell us the joke?
Does the Crypt Keeper come back? He has to come
Crypt Keeper
back.
does come back. I don't always cover the closing segments because it's mostly just puns. But yes, he does.
Never ignore the puns. How
Well,
dare you?
He also made one of the probably the racier puns he's ever made on the show.
He did. Yes, that's true.
And he says, and I quote, "I love a ghoul that gives head
And then lets you keep it.
And then let you
and lets
keep
you
it.
keep it." Yeah, I was like,
Solid
So-
and raunchy.
Is that a snowball?
Jason.
You guys are dads. You're all dads.
I grew up on Kevin Smith.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm at least the one with the adult child at this point. So
That's fair.
All right, let's move to our episode review. Zoran, you're our guest, so you can start us off. What did you think of this episode?
I mean, I enjoyed it. I would say it was light on gore and effects and kind of stuff for a little bit, that I was like, oh, okay, some of the deaths and things weren't, anything, just choking and whatnot.
Mhm.
But then the zombies at the end won me over, and I'm like, oh, this is where the budget went for this episode, this last shot where all the makeup effects are great. Because I remember, I watched Tales from the Crypt for gore and nudity. Because that was where you went. HBO was your source for gore and nudity. And so when I was first watching, I'm like, oh, okay. And it's interesting because this one directed by Tom Hanks.
Mhm.
And I love that they would always have people directing these, things like Robert Zemeckis, and because he, made the thing. But I think he did a really good job directing it. There are some logic issues and stuff, but the thing moves very quickly. Like, so much is packed into 30 minutes, like you said in this. Like, we got to get through this going, and he's got to kill like this many women and this many people, and then we got to just move on, and we're on to the next episode.
Yeah, there's easily a whole movie's worth of plot in this
easily.
half hour.
And I am very happy to always see Treat Williams in anything. I have loved that man since I think Deep Rising was the thing that I really know him from. And then my buddy Dave would always, when I'd say Treat Williams or something, he'd give him the nickname T-Bill. T-Bill, that's my man. Treat Williams is T-Bill. Yeah, I love seeing Treat Williams in there. The cast is great. With was it Frances Sternhagen, who was who I knew from Sex and the City as Kyle MacLachlan's mom, Bunny. God, she's great. Like, all the acting I think is great in here. Morty's weird. Morty's just a weird guy that just comes in. It's also hard for me to hear anything for Morty now without just going Morty, right. Just thinking Rick and Morty immediately. But overall, I enjoyed it. I did remember it. Like, it's one that I was like, as soon as I started watching, I went, oh yes, I do remember that. And for some reason, the shot of Tom Hanks looking at a VCR is in my brain, like trying to clean it with a Q-tip or something. That I'm like, I remember that shot for some reason, and Tom Hanks dying. But Yeah, I enjoyed it. What did everybody else think?
Mondo, go ahead.
Let's not forget Sugar Ray Leonard as the grave
yes.
digger. Like for people who are maybe younger listening to this show, like one of the greatest boxers in the history of boxing. Back when we thought boxers were the toughest guys of all time before UFC came around, and we realized that ground fighters are better. But
okay.
Oh no, I'll stand by that. But one of the great boxers, and actually did really well in the role too, I thought.
It's just weird that they cast him for this gravedigger role. Just Sugar Ray Leonard. Didn't give it to box.
I often wonder sometimes, like when you see someone like that, were they a fan of the show? And did they ask like, hey, I want to be on the show. I want to get on there. But I thought that was really cool just to have him on there. Really cool seeing Tom Hanks in an early role. Like I love Tom Hanks. He's done some bad stuff, but does like, come on, The Burbs.
Well, that's where also Henry Gibson as Stanhope from The Burbs, that I'm like, oh, he just brought his buddy over from there. And yeah, I love Henry Gibson. The weirdest thing that I remember him from is a cartoon called Galaxy High School.
Oh no, never heard of that.
Chris Columbus animated show that lasted in the 80s for like one season about a school in space. And he was the voice of the locker. Like it was a robotic locker. And I was
That's
like,
so cool.
Mr. Locker.
And then I think I watched The Burbs and I'm like, I know that voice. He's a locker.
He was the voice he was in King of the Hill. He was the newsroom manager when Peggy became a writer in the Arlington paper.
Oh yeah, he's done a
Arlen
ton of voice work. I am a big fan of voice acting, as it is the dream of mine to do voice acting as well. So I was like, oh, I know this man from a lot of things. He was also on The Wuzzles. If anyone remembers the Disney show, The Wuzzles.
I do remember that. Yes.
He was Ella Rue.
Oh, Lord.
Really?
Yeah.
No idea.
Very interesting. I mean, we'll get into all of it, but he was in the original Nutty Professor in 1963.
Oh no! Wow.
Yeah, he was like a student.
Jerry Lewis. He was in that one. Wow.
Yeah. He was also in the Blues Brothers movie as quote head Nazi.
Yeah,
that's what you want on your IMDb.
I know.
Still trying to get head Nazi on my IMDb.
He was in Inner Space. You guys remember that movie?
Oh, I think he's anything Joe Dante did. He's like, come with me. You've worked with me before. You're delightful.
And I was looking at his IMDb, his trivia, and this is what it said. He has appeared in episodes of 4 different series which featured witches: Bewitched, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Charmed, and this one I don't understand, but Boston Legal.
Boston Legal.
They do a witch trial?
Are they
real weird?
Are they just considering? Are they just considering educated women in Boston are witches?
I have no idea what that means, but
like,
I'm excited to see him in Charmed, as I am currently watching Charmed because it is my fiance's favorite show, and I am trying to make it through that show. It's interesting that that 90s Buffy like kind of show. It's a oh man, it was a different time. Like.
I think I tried watching that when it came out because I was young and Alyssa Milano was in it, and I still couldn't make it through it.
I got a watch guide for it where there's like true fans being like, these are the ones that matter, which is kind of how I started watching Buffy at first. I went, if it didn't say Angel or Spiker in the episode, I'm going to skip it. If it says, no, I'm going to keep watching the Angel and Spike ones, but I'm going to skip if the swim team fights a monster. I'm like, okay, we'll move on from there. But then eventually it got good, and I was like, all right, I'm watching every episode.
That's cool. I got another show I haven't watched. I really need to get into.
I just watched Buffy for the first time this year with my kids because cool. It's a fun one to watch with the kids.
It is.
We were in Boulder City today, which is like 40 minutes from where I live in Las Vegas, which doesn't sound like far, but for Vegas, that's far. And it's kind of still an old town. And we went there to do this little thing where you ride, you pedal, you on a pedal cart, and you go on the railroad for like 4 miles and get to see all the mountains. It was fun. It was a blast.
Cool.
And afterwards, we got breakfast, place called the Coffee Cup, and everything down there, because it's by the Hoover Dam, has dam in the name. So I was making all the dad puns, pissing my wife off. But I made the joke, this is a damn good cup of coffee. But I've never seen Twin Peaks. So I felt like a super poser making that joke. I know the line of the joke.
Yeah.
But we drove by this place that statues. They had these statues of the Blues Brothers.
Oh, cool.
Just sitting outside. And part of me is like, I need to pull over and see how much these are, because these would look awesome in my front yard.
Yeah.
A statue of the Blues Brothers.
Jake and Elwood just hanging out.
Love that movie.
All right, Mondo.
Getting back to the episode,
Yes.
sorry, Jason. I will say again, a little bit spoiled by season 3, but I think season 4 started off on a good note. It's not my favorite episode of Tales from the Crypt. It's not top tier, I think, but it's a solid, just fun episode where I knew where it was going, but all the actors do such a good job. They all add into their roles very, very well. And I really, really loved the effects at the end.
Mhm.
I think when you see the first, I think it was Effie's face comes through first, it's super reminding me of Suspiria. When you see the witch's face the first time, how that was shot. And I kind of got goosebumps, like, oh shit, it's like Suspiria. And I really love that. I really love the ending of it. And I really love I always love when the protagonist gets what's coming to them. And there are some terrible people on the show, obviously. Stanhope wasn't one of them. The women were not terrible people. The antagonist got what they deserved. 2 things I wanted in this episode. One is the puzzle. You should never have relations on top of a puzzle. So I was hoping towards the end of the episode, you'd see the puzzle completed, but missing like 2 pieces.
Oh, I thought you wanted to see like pieces stuck to his back.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Because I've
she would be
worked
like,
on a puzzle in the heat, and puzzle pieces will just stick to you as you're like leaning over, like, get off my elbow. God.
Yeah, and the other one, I was kind of hoping at the end when he threatened Sugar Ray Leonard, that Sugar Ray Leonard would have messed him up like Mike Tyson on an airplane.
Yes. That should have been it. Just cold cocked him, taken him out, and then the zombie show like, oh,
yeah,
you took care of that. Thanks.
Yeah, I would have loved that, but I still think it was a fun episode. Definitely not top tier, but solid episode. Good way to start season 4.
Mhm.
And again, I don't have a whole lot of fond memories. A lot of episodes from season 4, so I'm looking forward to with a little bit of trepidation as to what we're going to get the rest of the season, because I do know season 3 was the sweet spot.
Okay.
All right. Jody.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I think a lot of that is due to Treat Williams. I think he did a fantastic job in his role because he's just slimy enough, and you see him, and he goes back and forth between like this charming guy and then just flat out murdering everybody who crosses him. And I love it. I love an actor like that. He was in the couple of the Stepfather movies, right? And he does kind of the same thing.
No,
like
Substitute.
That's it. But he does kind of the same thing of like charming at times, but then awful at other times. And I really like that. Like I said, I really liked the character of Effie, and I hated to see her die. Like you see her going down this path, like stay away from this man. You have too much life in you to get hooked up with Howard. But yeah, no, I love that. I love the ending. It was kind of predictable, but it was fun. I feel like Tom Hanks had fun making this episode. Like this was his directorial debut, right? Was this?
I think it's the first thing he's ever directed. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could tell he was really having a fun time with it. And I was looking, Tom Hanks at this point, he was, we think of Tom Hanks now as like, Mr. Serious actor, and he does like all these big emotional roles. He was a comedian, like fully at this point in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, The Money Pit, Joe versus the Volcano, The Burbs. It was all comedy.
Bachelor Party.
Bachelor Party. Yeah, absolutely.
Big,
so,
yeah.
So, it's a really funny episode. There's a lot of good humor in there. And I think that's one of those things that makes a good Tales from the Crypt episode, is that it's got the violence and the gore and stuff in the end, but it's also it's fun. It's fun to watch, fun characters and funny moments. So yeah, I really like this one.
All right, I'll go. I was a little lukewarm on this. On the Tales from the Crypt continuum, yeah, it's a perfectly serviceable episode coming off of the high of the previous episode, which is my favorite, Yellow. It's just kind of hard to compare. Obviously, if you're going chronologically, there's like almost a year between when these 2 episodes came out, so it's a little unfair to watch them back to back. But that's the way it is. But yeah, it was fun. Yeah, there's a lot of kills. They weren't like the most goriest, but at least they were different. Also, something about seeing Tom Hanks get murdered is always just kind of like amusing. So I was trying to think, like, other than Saving Private Ryan, has he died in any other movies?
Spoilers.
Maybe Philadelphia. It's been a long time since I've seen that one,
I
but
don't
whatever.
think in Philadelphia they show him dying. I think they allude to him dying.
It's
I don't
Definitely
think they
implied,
should show.
Well, no, not
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
yeah,
a little
you're
rough.
I
I'm
don't
just
think
saying-
we want to watch that.
No, I'm just saying, like, as far as like Tom Hanks is usually the
Yes.
guy that makes it.
Yeah.
Those Arnold Schwarzenegger makes it, except for End of Days. That was his
Yeah.
first time dying.
Ooh, I like End of Days though.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
That was just a fun movie. It's not great, but it's a fun movie.
Yeah,
Well, it's got Arnold, so he's just
Yeah.
entertaining in whatever
always.
whatever thing he's doing.
but
Yeah.
So for Tom Hanks, yeah, this is the first thing he ever directed, movie or TV. He went on to do like Band of Brothers and Earth to the Moon. As
Mhm.
far as movies goes, he did That Thing You Do and Larry Crown.
Both good.
Yeah, both pretty good.
Oh, I love That Thing You Do.
No, That
I
Thing You
do
Do is
too.
great. Larry Crown
good.
is just kind of okay.
Didn't see it.
Treat Williams, he was in the original or the movie adaptation of the Broadway musical Hair, was like one of his big breakout things.
Okay.
Yeah, he was also in Flashpoints, and then we just said Deep Rising, The Substitute 2 and 3. I don't know who was in Substitute 1, but
no,
Tom Berenger.
Tom Berenger.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there
Right,
you
who was in another Tales episode actually.
Hey, don't move past Treat Williams without mentioning his 1988 cop movie with Joe
Dead Heat!
Piscopo,
Dead
Dead
Heat.
Heat,
Did he?
Yes!
Did he?
where he gets killed and comes back as a zombie cop. I mean,
Seriously?
come on.
Buddy
Yes.
cop zombie
Oh, I
movie
gotta
with
see
Joe
that.
Piscopo.
Oh
Okay.
man, you've got to watch that one.
I gotta watch that. For Frances Sternhagen, she's an interesting career because yeah, she's done a ton of stuff since like the 60s. She was in, as far as genre, she was in Misery, and she was
Mhm.
also in The Mist. So
And
she's
I
kind of
didn't
game.
want to remember The Mist. He reminded me, and I got sad.
Has there been a mist kill count?
The Mist? I don't
yeah.
think. No, there's not been
Yeah,
a Mist.
okay. That'd
Okay,
be
it's too
interesting.
depressing.
Yeah.
I will say, if anybody has the Blu-ray or the DVD of that, if you
Black and
watch
white,
that in
yeah.
black and white, it's
Oh,
even
it's-
more intense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
I
oh,
like it in black and white, actually.
Oh, me too. I love
Yeah.
that movie. And it's interesting because Stephen King actually said when he watched the finalized film, he goes, "That's a better ending than I had. I
Yeah.
should have done that."
It
And
is a really.
that's
good
always
ending,
really cool. Yeah.
yeah.
She was also in Cheers. We talked about Sex in the City, and she's also in ER. So she's kind of all over the place.
And she was on The Simpsons.
she's also in The Simpsons.
She was in the Scream-a-Pillar episode, and she's played. At the end, it's revealed that she's actually Carmen Electra. I was hoping that was going to be the end of this Tales from the Crypt episode. That,
That
she,
would've been-
Just Carmen
she was
Electra.
actually Carmen Electra, and it was all a big
Whole
prank.
time.
That episode, man.
And then Dennis Rodman can show up, and
Okay.
All right, well, that's a whole other thing.
that's an
Yeah.
old reference, really old reference.
Tom Hanks need to go through his resume, but yeah, he was fun in it. It's always
He was in a couple things,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a
bosom
few
buddies,
things.
and that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about Tom Hanks's resume in a minute too. But actually, yeah, I wanted more Sugar Ray Leonard. I wanted more on that character again. Like
Yeah.
if this could have been like a full feature film and given a lot of the characters more time.
Yeah, and
he
I
was
will say
really
at
underserved.
the end when they gave his he kind of gave his monologue about why he sent the letters, that got a little bit
It
confusing.
was a little confusing.
Because they made me do it. They made me do it, but I don't want you to be. It's kind of weird. I want to know
Want you
how
to
you
teach
did it
me?
though. Yeah,
Yeah.
teach me how to be a
Yeah.
womanizer.
Yeah.
That was
That
kind
did
of
not
weird.
make sense to me at all. He's
Yeah.
like, I want to be like you and a womanizer. Also, they made me do it.
right.
Also, I kind of hate you.
What?
Yeah,
All those women, what you did is terrible. Teach me how to do it.
yeah.
I want
Right.
money.
So I think the problem with this episode is the writing just isn't quite there. But the acting's good, directing's good. The like I said, the last like 2 minutes is amazing.
Yeah.
With the effects, that's by far the best part.
I mean, in this
the whole episode
world,
doesn't get there.
in this world of like really long, hour-long shows and everything, it's just so nice to have like a 30-minute horror thing instead of like. It didn't feel dragged out too. Like the 30 minutes goes by very quickly because so much is happening that you're just moving on to the next thing. So I'm just like, oh, and it's over. I'm like, okay, that was good. We did a thing. Thanks.
I so want a modern like 30-minute episodic horror show like this and set in modern times because man, like with busy lives, there's so many. I've been trying to watch the Batman now for like 2 weeks,
Oh.
and every time I sit down, I'm like, I definitely don't have 3 hours to watch this.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, although I am a big believer in the 90-minute film. But
100%. I am the 90-minute film. I think that's like your natural dream state. Is 90 minutes. So that is like naturally how much we can disbelieve. We can disbelieve this much, and then you start pushing us. So like, stop it.
I never thought of it that way. That's interesting.
As it, I've watched it. Obviously, like Fresh came out this year. That was 2 hours long. Didn't feel like 2 hours because it was so good. I'm gonna go see the Northman. I know I'm gonna love that movie because Robert Eggers.
Yeah, certain things can be that length. I do not agree. The Batman should not have been that length. I was editing it as I was watching it. It's a very well done movie, but I'm like, I would have probably loved that movie as a 2 hour movie. I would have been like, solid, great, moving on. And yeah.
But I kind of miss just having that 30-minute episodic horror TV show that I can just sink my teeth into and then turn it off and go do my thing.
Well, I think technically Creepshow is split into two 30-minute
that's
sections.
A good one, yeah.
It's split into two 30-minute sections or something, or 20 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, they kind of vary. Well, that's the thing. In the streaming world, it can be as long or as short as it needs to be. Like, there's no reason why in this day and age something needs to be a certain length.
Which is a curse and a blessing in a way that it's like nice that you don't have to, but also I feel that having that constraint could help out a lot, being like, we got to hit this in 22 minutes.
Right.
Otherwise, we can't make this work or whatever. And so one thing on that is that The Simpsons, one of my favorite jokes ever in The Simpsons was the Sideshow Bob rake gag where he's stepping on rakes. The episode was actually short. They didn't have 22 minutes. And they just said, well, we have this one sound effect of Kelsey Grammer groaning. We're going to have him just step on rakes to fill up an extra minute of runtime. And that gave me one of my favorite jokes ever because of the time constraints that they had to work around. So be able to do that was a nice thing that they had to be creative and clever and make it work.
I do love that. Sword. Well, I think having a limited time can be tough because I'll go to the Batman. I'm probably going to watch it in 2 sittings. I'm probably going to watch it for an hour and a half. But if I get busy the next couple of days, there's a chance I never go back to it. And that's not a knock on the movie or the quality of the movie. That's just my busy day-to-day life that I have. The Irishman was a good example of that. Whereas I just happen to be able to watch that in an hour and a half sitting in the morning and an hour and a half sitting in the evening, which it just kind of turned out that way. So I do think there is something to be said about that, like hour and a half sweet spot of a film if you can do it.
It's really nice.
And it was also kind of fun back in the day when you'd have those constraints, right? Because you'd have a movie that was an hour, 20 minutes, hour and 40, whatever. And then you get the special features, you get the DVD that would come out later with all the deleted scenes. And you'd watch those separately and be like, okay, cool. I can definitely see why this, and this is left out. This would have been really cool to put back in, but it gives you options. Just say.
And another reason that movies were shorter earlier was because they didn't have multiplexes. And they needed shorter movies so they could do more showings and make money at the theaters. And now with the multiplex, it doesn't matter as much. But yeah, so that was one of the reasons they used to be shorter, but now they're longer because they don't need the same turnaround that they had.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's interesting you bring up the Irishman because I remember that came out right around Thanksgiving and I was visiting family for like 4 nights. So every night after everyone went to sleep, I just put the Irishman on my tablet and watched like an hour or 45 minutes at a time over the entire thing. Like,
it should have been a show. That one I feel really should have been a show. They could have had edit points and been like, here's an episode. Just toss a cliffhanger on the end of it and we're good.
I don't think though you can publicly say that you watched it on a tablet because I think Scorsese will come after you.
He's gonna come slap me.
Don't say that out loud.
All right. Jody, do you want to give us a comic comparison?
Yeah, so this is one of those that they took the basic idea and kind of ran with it, but the comic did its own thing. This is from Tales from the Crypt number 33 from January 1953. It's the same issue as Lower Birth, so you get both of those in the same issue. Script by Al Feldstein, art by Graham Ingalls, who went by the name Ghastly, and that's how he signed all this stuff. But anyway, in there, Howard is a man who, and I'm just going to say what it is. He marries unattractive, wealthy women. He doesn't go for older women. That's his whole thing, is he tries to find women that are not conventionally attractive, and then he kills them for their money. He gets to them through this Lonely Hearts Club list, which seems like, I don't know, it seems like a chain letter type thing, but it looks like I guess you sign up and I don't know how it works. It's 1950s, some kind of mail related thing of mail correspondence. But anyway, so he find these women and marry them and kill them. So he made it so Matilda would fall down the stairs and then finished her off with an axe. He pushed Effie out of her apartment window. He sent Luella over a cliff in her car, and he poisoned Veronica with her coffee. And then he receives a letter from a woman named Janet, who tells him that she lives in a large stone house with marble floors, furnished in exquisite taste, hardwoods, bronze trim, satin draperies, and stained glass windows. And she enclosed this picture of this beautiful young woman. And she said, I'm sorry, the picture is from a couple years ago. I don't have a more recent snapshot. And Howard gets pretty excited about this. He's like, okay, she's beautiful. She's obviously rich based on the description of her house. I think I'm out of the murder game. I'm just going to go. He proposes to her through the mail and she says yes. And so this is it. I'm done being a criminal. I'm going to marry this woman and live out my life in luxury. And he goes to the address that she gives him. And it's a cemetery. And a decaying zombie woman opens the door to his car and says, I'm sorry, I didn't have a more recent picture. And she drags him into the satin draped mausoleum with the stained glass window across the marble floor into the hardwood bronze trimmed coffin. And she tells him it's been so lonely, but now that's all over. So it's the little twist with
That's fun.
Yeah.
Furnishings and the stuff about her house. Although that was really fun that in the end, like, oh, the mausoleum's all decorated like that with all the that's cool. I like that. That was clever.
I just love I don't have a recent picture. Just sorry, not a recent picture. A few years ago.
That's some early AOL shit right there.
Yep.
Felt cute.
Catfish.
This is early catfishing. She didn't include a dead picture. She included one of her living pictures. Just lies all around.
Love it.
But yeah, no. So I think this is kind of the comic itself is fun. It goes a completely different direction. I'm glad that in the show they went with older women instead of like this whole like I'm finding unattractive women thing. That's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's completely different other than the zombie at the end. Yeah, I enjoyed both of these on their own. They really took one script and just kind of overlaid a whole thing on it and made something different. I like it when they do that. I like it when they follow it pretty strictly, but it's also a lot of fun when you can see that they just really took inspiration and ran with it.
Nice. All right, let's move on to our ratings. So we do 1 to 5. You can do half points, 5 being the best, 0 being the worst. Zoran, why don't you kick us off?
Oh, I will say that's probably a 3 version on a 3.5. You know, just a solid Tales from the Crypt episode, but nothing like super special, but just like solid, enjoyed it, good makeup effects at the end. So we'll go with that.
All right, Jody.
All right. I think I probably enjoyed it just a little bit more than everyone else. So I'm guessing I have the highest with a 4.
Okay. Mondo.
Right in between, and I actually wrote my notes. Jason will rate this lower than me, and I have it at a 3 point. I have it at 3.5. One of our listeners said to me the other day, "Does Jason even like Tales from the Crypt?"
Good question.
And I told him, I said, I think this is just a big ploy for him to get to talk to Alcats.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You said 3.5, right?
Yeah, 3.5. Yep.
Yeah, I'm going with the 3.
Yep. There it is.
It's not that much lower though. It's
No,
a
not that
1. It's a 1. Suck, man. Yeah. It wasn't yellow. Everything should be yellow.
Okay. Speaking of Alan Katz, we're doing something new this week. As most of you know, we're working with producer Alan Katz, who worked on the original show and the movies. And you know, I was struck up a friendship with him. I had lunch with him the other day, and he's going to start writing in what we're calling Al's anecdotes, because he has a story about pretty much every episode. So
Awesome.
he's going to send us little bits and fun stories for each episode. So we're gonna insert those here. So future Mondo is gonna edit in right now. But just so everyone knows, the story is essentially that he was in the car with Tom Hanks and his other producer, Gil Adler. And he was sitting in the back, and it was Gil's car. Tom Hanks was in the front the front passenger seat. And he just started touching every button in the car. And he had this moment where like, it was like that scene in Big, where he's like in the toy room, and he's just like playing with all the toys. And he's like, no, this is just how Tom Hanks is. He's just a big childlike wonder for everything. He just wants to play with
Awesome.
everything. He was going through like his dashboard and his glove compartments.
Did you ever see the photos when Tom Hanks found a drunk guy at a bar he was at and sat next to him and took a bunch of selfies with him while he was drunk? And
awesome.
the guy went on Reddit and posted photos, be like, no one's gonna believe this, but that's me passed out at the bar, and Tom Hanks is like, taking selfies with him on his phone.
Amazing.
Okay, and now Future Mondo, we're back in.
I'm leaving all this in. It's
I know.
An amazing anecdote that I heard.
yeah, right. That was crazy.
But I thought we'd take a minute, and I posted some question on our Instagram and in our Slack about what everyone's favorite Tom Hanks roles are, or least favorites. Do you guys have any favorites or least favorite roles you want to throw out there? I'll just say what people were talking. A lot of people did not like Polar Express for many
It's
reasons.
real creepy.
Never saw it.
I can say favorite, and it might be recency bias, but God, what's the name of it? The Mr. Rogers movie he did.
Oh, that was really good. Welcome to
my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Or
God, he was so good, and that's a tearjerker of a film. Like that's a great role he played.
Yeah.
Speaking of recent ones, he did this movie called Finch, which was on Apple TV.
Mhm.
And it was not good. It was like
I haven't seen that.
It was like every sci-fi cliche. It's like The Martian mixed with I Am Legend, but not good. Everything was cliche. Like it looked good, like they spent their money on effects, and it's Tom Hanks, so like you're kind of in for it, but nothing. The movie just doesn't gel. And it's not a bad performance, just not a good movie.
Well, I love dramatic Tom Hanks. He does some great roles. But I have a soft spot for all these that I talked about earlier. These like these 80s comedies.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good in comedies. I one that no one ever talks about is Dragnet. It was him and Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
He fights a big snake in a pit.
I don't know if it's actually good, but I loved it when I was like a teenager. It's a fun movie.
It's interesting. I've rewatched it recently, actually, and I'm like, I don't know if it holds up as much as I liked
Probably
it when
not.
I saw it before. But for me, Splash.
Yeah.
Splash, yeah.
If anyone remembers Splash, and
yeah.
I love that, him and John Candy, and that was fun. I had a show on Go 90 that I worked on called The Blubberbs. That was an animated show, and I wanted a running joke of campaigning to get Tom Hanks to do comedy again that I was trying to fit into every episode. I got into at least one episode and just Tom Hanks dramas. I don't like these. I want Tom Hanks comedies. That's what we want. Come back.
Yeah.
Speaking of his comedies, he was always great every time he popped up on SNL.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's wonderful in both. He can do it all. I just wish he would sometimes go back and just go, I'll just do a weird comedy, for this. I have enough Oscars. I have plenty of Oscars.
Did you ever see The Lady Killers?
Yeah, he was great in Lady Killers, right?
in
Yeah,
that.
I remember liking him, but I didn't like that movie very much.
I remember
He's
liking
playing
it.
a fun character in that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason, we've already decided Jason doesn't like fun.
I don't like
But he does like snowballing, but not fun. One of my favorite scenes in with Tom Hanks on SNL was him having his hand stuck in the pickle jar on Celebrity Jeopardy. Like I remember that very vividly.
Yes, that was a good one.
When it's like a 5-minute bit of him Will Ferrell saying, just let go of the pickle. And he's like, no, but I want the pickle. He's like, but if you let it go, you take your hand out. He goes, but I don't know. I want the pickle. And it goes on for forever. And it's just fucking amazing.
Awesome.
All right. Let's move on to Song of the Day. This is where the wheels are going to fall off. Mondo.
I do have a top 10 list of if anybody wants, I do have a top 10 list of Jason's fetishes. So snowballing went on number 10. But
I'm glad I don't know what that is, and I don't want anyone to explain it to me. I don't want any explanations. I'm good where I am in my life.
It's a Clerks joke. But
okay, 37 in a row.
37 in a row. Mm-hmm. Why do you call that guy Snowball? Well, I'll let Jason explain that one later. Yeah, a song of the day. I'm gonna do a song in honor of the Dead Meat YouTube show and what you guys are doing with. I'm a huge geek for pro wrestling. Fucking love pro wrestling. So you guys just did a interview with Chris Jericho about his favorite horror film, and I think he picked Sleepaway Camp 2.
Oh yeah, Angela, baby,
love Sleepaway Camp 2.
So I'm gonna pick his theme song for AEW, his entrance music by his band Fozzy, which started out as a cover band called Fozzy Osbourne back in the late 90s. And you know what's funny though, for a guy who's a real superstar of pro wrestler, when he comes to Vegas to tour, he plays like small clubs.
Cool.
Which is actually kind of cool. I saw him once at Count Vamps years ago, which is also a horror connection because there's a show on Discovery, I think, called Count's Customs, based on a guy that does motorcycle restoration here in Las Vegas. He was the original horror host in Las Vegas on Channel 33 KTNV back when I was a kid. And he was Count Cool Rider, the vampire that ride out on the motorcycle and introduced Night of the Living Dead or whatever really badass, public domain horror film they were showing, which really influenced me as a kid and helped me fall in love with horror. So it's kind of a cool circle, but I will go with his theme music from AEW, which is the song Judas by his band Fozzy off the record Judas. Okay. And my favorite part of this song is that he's now a bad guy. So he can't well, why do you still play this song? And the fans sing along to it. He goes, because the owner, because every time they play this song, they have to pay me royalties. So I'm never going to lose a song. I'm like, what a dickhead. he's such a good bad guy. And it's really cool because he's also a big horror fan. If you go on his podcast, he's interviewed a lot of people around the horror genre. He loves horror. And as a guy who's reinvented his character many times, it's really cool to watch how when he came back at WWF as a heel way back in the day, he took inspiration from I forgot the character's name, but the antagonist in No Country for Old Men. Just the stoic. I'm just evil. And then when he was in New Japan Pro Wrestling and was fighting Tanahashi, he was the Painmaker, which obviously was a droogie from a Clockwork Orange. And I love the fact he's taking those things and help reinvent his character all the time. So in honor of having someone from Dead Meat here, in honor of having the pro wrestling theme, which I absolutely adore, it will be Judas by the band Fozzy.
All right.
Cool.
Jody, give us your trivia of the day.
All right, very short trivia today. I just wanted to point this out because we've already mentioned him, but this was the first episode of the series that Alan Katz was a co-producer on. In season 3, he was a story editor. This is his first co-producer credit. So friend of the show, friend of Jason, friend for all of us, Alan Katz. This was his first co-produced episode.
Nice pull. All right, well, that leads us to our dad advice section. Zoran, I believe you're a father, but
I am not a father.
do you have a cat or a dog?
I do. A
Good
dog
enough.
named the Doctor and
The Doctor.
A cat named Phantom.
So real fast, your dog is named the Doctor. What's it?
Yes.
What are his cute names you give him? Because you don't call him the Doctor all the time.
Fluffbutt. Most of the time I call him Doctor. Actually,
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Doctor.
Dr. Satan,
nope.
Dr. Sleep.
I think he's coming in here.
That's awesome.
Yes, no, I have he's been on the Tremors kill counts a couple times. I've shoved him in there. He's a cute little Pomeranian. Never thought I'd own a Pomeranian, but I call him the Doctor because I'm a big Doctor Who fan. And he is the first dog that I've had as my own personal dog. And, the day that he passes on, I will have a second Doctor. So I will have a regeneration of my first dog, and so on and so on.
That's super cool.
My life. So I'm very excited.
Speaking of The Simpsons, that reminds me of Lisa with her graveyards of
snowballs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes. Am I supposed to give dad advice now?
Well,
If you have something.
my amazing
Keep them well fed.
transition here would be, as
feed
someone.
feed them and teach them how to shit outside.
I will say, just as if you come up to a dog on the street or anything, never shove your face into a dog's face. I have had this happen many times that people go, "Oh, it's so cute, give me a kiss." And he's a tiny dog, and people just like come right up to him, and I'm like, he is going to bite your nose. Pull back. I mean, would you like it if I just like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing? Oh, you're so cute. You're so cute." That's terrifying. Terrifying. Don't do that.
My wife compares people who randomly come up to dogs and like get in their face and start petting them without asking to the people who will pet a pregnant woman's belly who they don't know.
What the fuck? Why do people think that's okay?
I don't know. I don't know. I saw my wife almost tear an old lady apart for like trying to grab my son. He was a like teeny tiny baby, like in like a wrap, like she was wearing him wrapped up against her. And this old lady was like pulling the wrap open to see the baby. Oh. And that's like when the first time I ever saw the mama bear thing, I'm like, oh, my wife's going to murder somebody right here in this JC Penney. Okay. Well,
that makes you want to carry around like a Halloween demon baby. So I can be like, what is it in Passion of the Christ, where you see the little like Satan baby, like Satan's was holding like the Antichrist or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like a little zombie baby from Dead Alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, what is the... Whoa!
That's better because Peter Jackson's cool and Mel Gibson sucks. So
I'm waiting for Peter Jackson to go back to horror one day. I'm
Yes.
sorry the Hobbit broke him,
dude.
apparently.
Yeah.
Man, like
Peter Jackson back in horror, Tom Hanks back in comedy.
Yep.
Let's do it. Make it happen.
Get him
back in
a
your
horror
lanes.
comedy by Peter Jackson starring Tom Hanks. I'm on board.
there.
I will never though. Like I will never get over the fact that many times Peter Jackson has been turned down for oh wait, never mind. Sorry, I'm thinking. Oh well, he tried to. No, I'm thinking of Guillermo del Toro. Del Toro tried to do Mountains of Madness.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's been trying to do that.
But Jackson almost did like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, which would have been mind-boggling.
Oh, that was going to be number
5 or I think it was
Oh,
5
God.
or 6.
The idea behind it too was me that Freddy was old and decrepit,
Mhm.
so people brought him back in his dreams intentionally to beat the shit out of him.
Until like
That's right.
if one of the kids like
about that.
slipped and fell and died or something, and people thought it
Yes,
was
he got
Freddy
this power back and went to
got
town.
his power
I'm
back.
like, that's pretty fucking cool. It sounds kind of goofy, but when you think of Peter Jackson doing, like he knew what he was doing. He had done something cool.
Yeah.
better than the late ones, but
I'm about to say by the time we're in part 5, it's pretty goofy anyway. So
Mhm.
So I have something for dad advice.
well, hold on. Let me go back to the pet thing, because actually today we went to like an outdoor arts and crafts fair thing, and my daughter, she's great with animals, but she needs to have like an entry point. So she like people were walking with their dogs, she kept wanting to go up to all of them and touch them. I kept having to say, no, you have to go up and ask permission, and then when you go to the dog, you have to give them your hand to let them smell you.
Well,
so you have to
that's-
kind of train your kids to learn how
Oh,
to
yeah.
encounter strange dogs.
Well, not even that though. Not even dogs. That's just teaching your kids how to respect boundaries too.
Oh, yes.
And how to like approach a human being, even like with that kind of like you're saying about the woman coming up to you, like I'm gonna touch the baby, even though it's not my baby.
even though I'm telling you no.
yeah.
Well, what's funny with my daughter specifically is that she'll want to go up to any strange dog and just start touching them. But when I tell her to ask the owner for permission, she gets super shy. So she's too shy to talk to the owner, but she like will touch any dog.
Because dogs are cool and humans suck. So I
That's
get it.
also true.
Dogs are cool.
So that's my dad advice for the week. Train your kids
Good.
how to approach strange dogs.
So I have said before how I took my daughter to see Midsummer with me.
How old is your daughter?
She's 19 now. She was 17
Okay.
at the time. So it was
Okay, that's just she was like 4. Just a big Florence Pugh fan.
And I took my daughter to see Sonic the Hedgehog 2 this week. So not the Northman.
I wonder
Very
how
similar films. Very similar through lines. When they burn Robotnik at the end, it's very weird.
they burned
On a fire.
Robotnik inside of it. Yeah.
Inside of a
Knuckles. Yeah.
Knuckles
Knuckles
costume.
suit.
It's a whole thing.
Ah!
A Robert Eggers Sonic movie. That's something.
But there still was that weird thing where we had to watch that weird ass sex scene as a family, which no one should ever do. So I want to go see the Northman next week, and I'm going to ask my daughter if she wants to go. So I had to do some research. So a certain podcast that we listen to used to always do the movie guide based on that, the heavily Christian website where they basically slander any movie that wasn't full of good old fashioned Christian values. But I found a website called commonsensemedia.org.
Mm-hmm.
Have you used this, Jody?
I use that all the time.
I need to read the What Parents Need to Know About the Northman because it's funny, but I'll also state that it's very matter of fact. It's not written to shame the movie. It's not like Movie Guide where they would just shit on the film. But it does say, expect gory battle scenes, characters being hit with arrows, swords, and axes. A man ripping another man's throat with his teeth, severed heads, mutilated faces, mutilated corpses, and the suggested deaths of a child, a dog, a horse, and more. Families are forcibly separated.
More.
And more.
Several characters appear to have sex, and some women appear to be forcibly grabbed with thrusting, touching, and partial bare bottoms and breasts seen. A man tries to rape an enslaved woman. She deters him by lifting her dress and showing him her menstrual blood. There are other sexual situations and sex-related dialogue, as well as uses of bastard, bitch, whore, hell, swine, piss.
Swine is one you have to know about. They're talking about swines. I can't.
Thank you. I'm glad you put that up
movie.
because of the whole review. That was the one thing that stood out. Like, wait, why is swine considered as bad as whore? And characters also eat a magic, in quotation marks, mushroom stew and go on, in quotation marks, bad trips. And the last thing and the worst thing of all, there's social drinking in taverns.
Oh no, in taverns?
What is this? The start of a D&D campaign?
But at no point does it said weird ass sex with old people pushing a penis into vagina. So I'm pretty happy about that.
That's good. You're in safe hands.
That is a handy site because I mean, like I just looked up the Northman review. They give it 4 out of 5 stars. Like they're not going down on or coming down on the movie at all. Whoa.
No.
What was that?
They are. It is nice just to kind of know when you're taking your kids to something, what you're going to get into. Like, how far is this going to go?
Yes.
I push the limits about what stuff I'll watch with my kids. Like I took my 11-year-old to go see the new Scream, and
there's some intense deaths in that.
Intense, man. Yeah. But I like to know a little bit of what we're getting into before we get there sometimes.
Yeah. The first thing I noticed
by myself, whatever, let whatever happen. But if my kids are going, I at least want to be prepared. And so that's handy. It's
so what you're saying is you didn't take them to go see The Devils.
I did not. No.
No. Actually, the first line, which I left out, was it's powerfully and expertly made by director Robert Eggers, but has intense, mature violence and sexual situations.
Sure.
And it's Vikings,
yeah. No, I laughed at the review because of how in depth it was. But I do love the fact, like Jody, you said, you could use this and actually say, okay, maybe I don't need to see the dog death.
Yeah.
Or need them to see someone getting his throat ripped out with their teeth.
Hey.
And maybe Jody does not like hearing other people be called swine.
I don't.
So
it's very upsetting. They even gave
leave that
X4
out
stars.
there. That language out there.
Hold on a second. They have community reviews.
Yeah,
and it says
Common Sense Media even gave X 4 out of 5 stars. I mean, that they're not judging. They're just letting you know what's in it.
All right, I'm gonna go read the review for X now.
Okay.
Don't watch it with your kids. I'll just go ahead and tell you that.
Weren't we talking about Tales from the Crypt at some point?
Things fall apart.
I'm telling you, we go off the rails here.
I have so many jokes that I was going to say in the episode, but I think
we still have time. You can keep going. Last week we spent way too much time talking about Frankenstein's monster's penis. So
that's true. It would have been sewn on, or I would have assumed, or just part of the lower half of whoever it was.
Wouldn't it even be more of a dick move to just not give him a penis?
I mean, it's a dick move to give him a penis, literally.
I know.
That's a dick move.
Thank you.
The dick.
There we go.
All right.
There you go.
But
Zoran, did you have any parting Tales from the Crypt jokes you wanted to make?
well, I mean, it just going through the episode, I was just making some notes, and one that I remember was like Matilda's ring is basically Thanos's engagement ring. It's this giant gold thing which looks like it has every infinity stone around it. And it's like the size of a golf ball on her finger, but it looked like an infinity gauntlet ring. But I'm like, man, I wish I'd proposed with that. I could have said no. But
Well, I have a question for you guys. If you ever at somebody's house and they bring 2 glasses of wine and hand you one and say, no, go ahead, you drink first.
even during the toast, he did 2 toasts. He's like, hey, to us, watched her drink a sip. And also to us again, drink more. And like, he's not drinking. That is so suspect. And where was he going? Isushian is not a place.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I was like, where
He
is
spelled
that?
it. He spelled it out. And I looked it up on Google. I'm like, this is not a thing. And then he's like, oh, I guess it's Ascension. But I'm like, no, it's like ESCUNSION. He spells it at the also same day flights nightly going to Sushin or Ascension. And he's just calling up like, yeah, I go on that flight. How much? Great. I'm going to pay cash. Bye.
I had trouble getting a flight to Albuquerque, New Mexico from Las Vegas. So like,
And he can just call up the airlines like, no problem. It was a better time in the 90s. And then also it was sad that this premiered like 2 weeks after William M. Gaines passed away.
oh, I didn't know that.
He passed away in early June of 1992. And so this was the first season that he was not alive to see. And it was like right beforehand that he passed away. But then as a lighter note after that,
let's end it on that. And
no, it's very, I can't escape the goddamn Tremors movies. So this is, I literally wrote in my notes, oh, fuck. Jay Ferguson scored this, and he scored Tremors 2 and Tremors 4.
There you go.
So I'm listening to the music and I'm like, oh, digital violins. Here we go. And I'm like, oh, it's Jay Ferguson. God damn it. Tremors is everywhere and I can't escape it. It is my life. And he also made a very obscure 80s hit called Thunder Island that I now absolutely love, which would be my song pick if we were picking a song. Thunder Island by Jay Ferguson.
So is Tremors like the Kevin Bacon thing where like everything connects back and even Kevin Bacon connects to Tremors?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I think, I mean, it's 1 degree of Kevin Bacon for Tremors
Right.
for that one. And then you get further degrees as it goes out when he's not in them anymore.
I'm officially 2 degrees from Kevin Bacon.
Is he in the next room? I am
He's in the
officially finally 2 rooms away from Kevin Bacon.
A close friend of mine sat next to him on an airplane.
Hey, there you go.
And they took a picture. So they're official. They're Facebook friends now, apparently. So
Nice.
they're official.
Yeah, that's great.
I couldn't let this episode go without talking about the trope of the name Howard. My dad's name was Howard, and he always lamented that the bad guy in every freaking movie was a Howard. It's always the bad guy.
Howard the Duck isn't a bad guy.
It's
He's
also
the best.
It's also like one of the biggest bombs of all. He would mention that movie as like the biggest bomb of all time.
Mhm.
Also, Turner and Hooch has a Howard that plays the villain who shoots. I think he's the one that shoots the dog.
Oh, well then, yeah,
Spoiler
he's a jerk.
He is an Alan. Yeah.
So, but the name Howard did come from the comics, so I can give this one a pass.
And this episode was written by a vampire. Did you know that? Donald Longtooth was the pseudonym used as the writer for this. I looked it up and I'm like, who is Donald Longtooth? It's Malcolm McDowell's character from the Reluctant Vampire episode.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a pseudonym. I don't think anyone wanted to claim this episode, or if it's a running joke that Donald Longtooth has written a couple episodes of Tales from the Crypt.
Huh.
Which
All right, I'll look into that.
Yeah.
I just looked it up and was like, oh, let me learn more about the writer. Oh, it's not a real person.
I'm sure Al will tell us, so I'll ask him.
That's all right. I mean, a vampire is a diversity hire. That's fine.
Well, on a sad note, the San Jose Sharks have just beaten the Vegas Golden Knights and probably knocked us out of the playoffs. So we're lucky that didn't happen 3 hours ago, or this would have gone way off the fucking rails.
Okay. So bringing it all back, I just looked up the writer who wrote as Donald Longtooth. The writer's name is Terry Black, who also wrote Dead Heat.
Oh shit!
Oh!
Bringing it all back around.
Amazing. Oh, I wish Piscopo had just showed up randomly in this episode somewhere.
Just in the background, just walking through a scene or something like that. For some reason, inside the house, just walking around.
I said if I ever got to the point of being so famous, like a Robert De Niro or something, I would just spend a year being an extra in every movie, being like, you need a bartender? I'm supposed to stand in the background and just clean glasses in the background of the shot. People are like, is that fucking Robert De Niro in the background cleaning glasses? No, why the hell would he do that? I'm like, that's what I would do. I just fuck with everyone and be like, I was in every movie last year. No starring roles, not a one.
Well, I just read that Matthew Lillard was in Scream 2, like at the party scene at the fraternity, but like with his back turned and his hair was dyed.
You mean in Scream 2, the movie, or Scream as well?
No,
his
Scream,
voice is in
Scream number 2.
Okay.
1997 or 98.
That's cool because I know he's in the new one as a voice.
Right.
Yeah,
He's also
right
like,
before James and Chelsea's cameo.
Yeah.
Which
also I saw it at a drive-in theater with that cameo. Like I'm seeing my car by myself. I start yelling.
It was so cool. They kept that so secret and then told us like right before it was coming out, but we have not been able to say anything, but we're in the movie. Okay, go watch it.
That's awesome.
So super unrelated too. This fucking Common Sense Media site has reviews from kids on movies too.
Really?
And
what the kids say of the Northman.
Okay, I'm gonna read 2 lines because one says out of 10, 3.5. The use of the B word and whore. Fuck. I love that he wouldn't say bitch, but whore is okay.
It's in the Bible. It's okay.
And granted, this is done by a 13-year-old. The last line is, the film is very good, but due to its strong themes, mature dialogue, and intense violence, I would only recommend it to people aged 16 and older.
The 13-year-old's like 3 more years of maturity, and then I'll understand this.
I don't know. That's a pretty mature 13-year-old for his writing skills.
Surprisingly, it's a long review. I'm not going to read the whole thing. He did talk about William Dafoe, but no mention of William Dafoe's confusing penis.
I would
mind-boggling. Who said that was in the
Antichrist?
Antichrist. Yeah,
mind-boggling people. Like it just doesn't make sense. I look at it
like Lovecraft. Like,
it's unknowable.
I think it winked at me.
Can we get William Dafoe and Kid Cudi and a dick off to see his weird thing?
And so now we get to end.
That's your fetish. We've got snowballing and we've got dick offs.
Ending 2 episodes with the same thing.
There it is.
Oh Lord.
All right. I think that wraps things up. Zoran, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people follow you?
Pretty much all the socials. I am Low Carb Comedy, LOWCARBCOMEDY. I remembered how to spell it. But yeah, lowcarbcomedy.com will take you to my YouTube channel where I have been making things since YouTube started. Lots of horror comedy shorts, lots of regular comedy shorts. The ones that I'm very proud of that no one's ever seen are a series of 50s trailer mashups where I take Universal monsters and mash them up with science figures. So Frank Einstein, Galileican, Schrodinger's mummy, that I did as a series of trailer parodies that I've got all on there that I think are some of the best things I've ever created that have like 1,000 views. But hey, I had fun making them.
Yeah.
But yeah, Low Carb. And then I will be back May 20th with the Slither kill count. I just finished the first draft of that. That movie is great. And there's so much good behind the scenes stuff on there. And he crams that thing full of horror references and Easter eggs, just like I love to do in my work as well. So I'm just like, oh, this is great. And, it's a good follow-up to Tremors because Tremors is referenced in there with Earl Bassett Community School, which is Fred Ward's character.
Looking forward to it. That's like one of those underrated gems that gets overlooked nowadays, but God, that's a good movie.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to have to pair it with Night of the Creeps or something. I'm like, oh, another killer slug movie. I got to just distance myself from killer worms a little bit, just ease my way out of the killer worm genre. Slither my way out there.
Do Beetlejuice and Dune and just keep
I had a list when I wrote all the Tremors ones of every reference of a giant worm ever, and I think I got all of them in there, from like Gears of War to SpongeBob and an Alaskan bullworm, and I'm just like, I'm fitting every giant worm reference I can into this thing.
and now you may have to add X into that too. Just saying.
X? has
Never mind.
giant worms. Oh, are you talking?
Never mind. Never mind. Sorry, it was bad joke.
Dick jokes. We have to end on dick jokes.
still
Is that
there.
what it is?
Yeah.
We're still there.
It's highbrow. We're highbrow here on the show.
Hey,
All right.
everyone used to call me lowbrow comedy instead of low carb comedy. So
All right. Next week, we will be reviewing This'll Kill Ya. We appreciate everyone for listening. We'd really appreciate it if you would give us a rating and review on iTunes and a rating on Spotify. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Goodbye.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.